And finally, new rule, if this sort of brazen larceny is concerning to you, then you might want to look at how much of the trillions of dollars in free government COVID relief money was just flat out stolen. Viewer warning, what you're about to hear may be triggering, and if it's not, it should be. Let's start with what we spent, the checks the government sent out to get America through the pandemic. There was the Families First Coronavirus Response Act for $192 billion, the Payment Protection Program for $484 billion, the Consolidated Appropriations Act for $900 billion, the American Rescue Plan for $1.9 trillion, and the CARES Act for $2.2 trillion. Although for how much of that money actually made it into employees' pockets, they should have called it the Who Cares Act. All told, $5.7 trillion laid out. Now, certainly, some large amount of spending was necessary to avert catastrophes like hospitals being overrun or falling into a depression. So we can argue another day if that 5.7 trill was the right amount. But for today, let's just look at what happened after the forever flu hit America, and Washington's answer was a mountain of money and a sign that said, "Come steal it." $872 billion went out to unemployment assistance. You know how much of it went to improper payments and fraud? Well, they don't have a solid figure. That would require accounting. But the low-end estimates are $163 billion in fraud. The Inspector General says it's likely higher than that, and ID.me, an insurance fraud prevention service, estimates the number is closer to $400 billion. That's almost half of it. In one instance, $2 million in unemployment checks got sent to one address. What was the job that guy was out of? In Arizona, scammers got nearly 30% of the benefits. And that's Arizona, where the most fiscally conservative, penny-pinching Republicans used to live. Republicans, at least used to pretend to be the mean old man who watched your money. But now, nobody from either party even pretends to. Defunding the police? Yes, that's a bad idea. But so is depolicing the funds. Palm Beach. Thank you, one guy. Palm Beach, Florida, which has 160 golf courses, got COVID money. What'd they do with it? They built a golf course. Several nonprofits overseen by an organization called Feeding Our Future got $65 million to feed needy children during the pandemic. But it was actually a massive fraud, and the FBI says almost none of this money was used to feed children. That's like something Trump would do. Even the poor kids were like, if we wanted to get fucked this bad, we could have gone to church. The Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, was designed to help small businesses pay their laid-off employees, but hundreds of loans went to fake farms in areas where farming isn't even done. You know that saying, don't have a cow? They literally didn't have a cow. The government sent $1.4 billion in stimulus payments to 1 million dead people. This woman used COVID cash to hire a hitman, and I assume the guy who got whacked then got a check. We gave billionaire Kanye West millions so he could continue making the world's ugliest shoes. Tom Brady's company got a PPP loan because you wouldn't want to have him touch his savings. Turns out Turns out the poor guy couldn't even retire. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program gave out $10 million to Broadway's West Side Story. No wonder they're singing I Want to Live in America. And another Broadway show, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, also got $10 million because J.K. Rowling was living in her car. Here in L.A., lots of people actually do live in their car. So 6 years ago, we passed a bond program to provide housing for the homeless. A couple of months later, it came out that each unit would cost $350,000. And we were all shocked, because that's a lot of money to throw at a problem, even here in California. By 2020, the cost had risen to $531,000 per unit. Now, it's $837,000 for one unit. You know, in France, the land of high taxes and socialism, $857,000 will buy you this. Okay, that is $20,000 more, but it does have a pool. You know, there's an old adage that government cannot transfer money except by means of a leaky bucket. And I get that. I get that. Some amount of leaking is inevitable. But when it's all holes, it's not a bucket anymore. What you got there is a handle. A January New York Times article about the effectiveness of the PPP program says, overall, the PPP was extremely inefficient. Only about a quarter of the money spent by the program paid wages that would have otherwise been lost. It didn't primarily go to workers who would have lost jobs. It was effectively a windfall for business owners, on the whole, a wealthy group. Okay, shouldn't liberal Democrats, therefore, be the ones who are most upset about this? Who do you think is most getting fucked by all this graft and thievery? If I say, you know, the government, they take our money and waste it, people say, you sound like a conservative. But again, I haven't changed. The hole to bucket ratio, that changed. Should I never notice that change to keep my progressive card? Should I stay supportive of government transfers of money until the percentage that's stolen is, I don't know, unlimited? What if they start to shoot money out of a T-shirt cannon? Still good? You know, I guess these days these two are seen as the bad guys in their party because they looked at another multi-trillion-dollar spending bill and wondered if our government was up to the task of taking all that money and not just having it siphoned off by grifters and for bullshit. Would it surprise you that the $6 billion earmarked for carbon reduction in that bill doesn't actually mandate any carbon reduction? It will pay for new streetlights and bike trails, though. You know, I know when the numbers get up into the billions and trillions, our eyes glaze over and it doesn't seem real. So by way of analogy, let's return to our friend in aisle 3 at the Walgreens. Okay, the Walgreens, that's the United States government. And aisle 3, that's the $5.7 trillion in COVID relief. And this guy's shoveling it into a bag and walking out. That's all the boondogglers and con men in America who fleeced the system. And this security guard who's just watching it, that's your congressman.